See a quorum is why I'm not starting the meeting.
Uh,
No, we don't have a quorum. I'm keeping an eye out. Oh, here we go. So looks like now we have a quorum.
Okay, Erica, let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is 6:01. And let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Drew, would you like to lead us?
I can definitely do that. Wow. Let me stand up. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance
to
the
the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Erica, can you do roll call, please?
Director Craig? Seems to be absent. Director Collin?
I'm here.
Director Jimenez?
Here.
Director Phillips? Seems to be absent. Director Rocha?
Here.
Director Silva?
Present.
Alternate Vice President Tipton?
Present.
And Vice President Cromings.
Present. Thank you, Erica. We do have translation services. They will be provided by calling in at 1-425-436-6345 and access code 444666. Can somebody repeat that in Spanish for me?
Servicios de interpretación están disponibles llamando al 1-425-436-6345 usando el código de acceso 444666.
Thank you so much, Erica. There was one public comment emailed in prior to the 5 o'clock deadline, and it will be read into the record. Do you want to do it now? Does it pertain to one of the items on the agenda, or is it a non?
It's a general comment, so I can read it into the record now.
Go right ahead.
It's from Joe Pedix from technology advisor from Alvarez Technology. It says, my name is Joe Pedix, and I am a technology advisor at Alvarez Technology Group, ATG. ATG is a technology and cybersecurity firm based in Monterey County. We are currently a vendor of many special district and cities in Monterey County, Santa Cruz, and San Benito counties. My comments today are regarding the ongoing persistent cybersecurity threat, specifically targeting all at local government organizations. The critical functions of government and critical infrastructure is literally under attack. We are briefed regularly by the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, and there is evidence that these attacks are going to increase in pace and intensity to disrupt the core of the education system of the United States. This information is being provided by the FBI, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the White House. There is a national set of standards for proper cybersecurity practices maintained by the National Institute for Standards and Technology called the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. As members of the board, you must be actively involved in making sure that your systems are protected as best as reasonably possible to ensure that you are able to safely deliver services to your community. There is an executive order issued by the White House which requires critical infrastructure to comply with the national cybersecurity standards. I urge the board to take emergency action to begin the process of securing your computer systems and network infrastructure. Please feel free to contact me at Alvarez Technology Group for further information or reach out to your provider of choice.
Thank you so much, Erica. Let's go on to general manager comments before we take the rest of it.
Real quick, Madam Chair, I believe Councilmember Osornio is on the waiting room and he's wants to get on.
Thank you, Anthony.
And he's an alternate for the city of Salinas.
I
Just
believe
moved him
Mr.
over.
Jimenez is also in the attendees. Ben?
Thank you, Mandy.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not sure if he's having internet issues. It seems to be not allowing me to move him over.
I'm
Yeah, it
seeing him.
looks-
I'm seeing him out there.
Yeah, it looks like Orlando is now on. Orlando, can you hear us? Could you turn on your mic?
I can hear you guys.
Thank you so much.
Christy,
Councilmember,
I'm sorry, I should
sorry,
raise
go
my
right
hand.
ahead.
It's,
No, go
it's
ahead,
Liz.
Liz.
Ben was on, he was on during roll call, but he's in Soledad, so maybe his electricity went out.
Yeah, it might be. We'll keep watching for him, and Liz, I'd appreciate if you can keep looking out for him. Is he there?
I think he was just able to log back in.
Looks like
Okay.
he's back on as a panelist.
Ben, are you able to talk to us? Can you turn off your mic? Turn on your mic? Okay, I don't.
All right.
There we go.
I'm in.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
All right.
and Erica, can you make sure that they are on roll?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that catch. I appreciate it. General manager comments. Patrick, do you have anything for us tonight?
Yeah, just a few brief comments, and I want to welcome Director Sornio to your first Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority meeting. So welcome aboard, and hopefully we'll have some interesting information to get you involved with the things that we're doing here. So
Talking
first,
trash.
yes, we're talking trash tonight. Well, actually, we talk recycling more than trash. But first announcement is we don't have any items for closed session, so there will be no need for us to go into closed session tonight. That's just a standing item in the event that the project that's going on has some need to go into real property discussion. So, but nothing for tonight on closed session. Second is I'm very happy to announce that we have issued the return to work notice to all of our administrative office. So with the lifting of all the most of the restrictions that we saw today, the finality of that with both Cal OSHA and the governor's office, we're requesting all the employees begin to come back into the office. So we'll be transitioning back to basically normal operations in the office effective the 27th. So that's exciting. A lot of the employees have already started coming back. You know, we're not holding restrictions in the office counts or anything any longer. So it's good to see everybody back and to actually have the family all under one roof again, instead of looking at little screens like we are tonight. And we'll be talking about doing the same thing with the board and staff later on in the agenda. And also have one other announcement just for myself, and that is that I was elected the president of the SWANA Gold Rush chapter. SWANA is our major peer organization, the Solid Waste Association of North America. And so I'm very proud to have my peers vote me in as president for the 21-22 fiscal year. So I'll be taking on that role starting in July, and just very exciting time in our industry. And our chapter represents the Central Coast, all the Bay Area, and all of Northern California. So we're one of the larger chapters in the United States, and it'll be exciting to see us also come out of the cocoon of COVID and begin to re-engage personally as peers instead of on Zoom meetings. So that concludes my comments for tonight.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And now on to department manager comments. Do any department heads have comments for tonight? Andy, Caesar?
President Cromine, sorry to interrupt. President
Yes,
Cromine,
ma'am.
I believe we have Director Phillips with us. I just want to confirm. Director Phillips, can you hear us?
Yeah, I couldn't get on. I got problems out here. You people don't like us, people up in the north in Prunedale, so I can't get on, but I'm on the phone, so I want to make sure I'm there so I can make the quorum and make the vote. So
That's
thank you.
not true. We love you
Perfect.
guys in the north.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any directors with comments?
I do, Vice President Cromines.
Go right
I
ahead,
just-
Mandy.
Thank you. We received notification from Cal Recycle that they completed their 4-year review cycle for our AB 939 programs. And the authority as our regional agency, which includes our member cities, we are meeting the requirements of all AB 939 programs, including our mandatory commercial recycling, which is the AB 341, mandatory commercial organics recycling, AB 1826, and then along with our household hazardous waste element. So this is a big yay, and also a testament to all of our staffs, not just resource recovery, but operations, everyone. All their hard work and dedication is paying off because we are in compliance. So that is some good news. That was it for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
This is Ray coming to you from Prunedale. They seem to like me here just fine, Judge Phillips.
Thank you, Ray. Go right ahead.
Just wanted to kind of give the board a heads up. Our insurance quotes are coming in kind of late and at the last minute for our July 1 renewal, but some of our policies are coming back with 15 to 20% increases, which is quite a bit more than what we budgeted in our annual budget. Once we get the final numbers, we'll reassess and we may bring something back in August to kind of address the budget shortfalls for those. But just wanted to kind of let the board know so that at least you could be informed of it.
Thank you, Ray. A heads up is always nice. Caesar, did you have anything?
Nope, no comments for me tonight. We're ops guys are just trying to stay cool. South County has been cooking lately, so other than that, though, the guys are rocking and rolling. We're glad that everything's opening up, and we're looking forward to getting fully staffed. So other than that, thank you and pleasure being here with you guys tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any board of director comments? Raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Rob, go right ahead.
Yeah, first off, I will attest to the heat in South County. If you see sweat dripping from my brow, you'll know why. I just wanted to extend a couple thank yous. Yesterday, we had our annual joint Chamber of Commerce and Rotary for King City kickoff meeting for our beautification week. And I wanted to thank Jenna Falk and Kristen Scromey for speaking at the event and for all that they do to support all of our communities. And they did a great job representing the authority and representing waste management. So thank you. And please, if you could pass on my thanks to Jenna. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and go to public comment. This would be comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda, but fall within our purview. Please, I ask speakers to limit their comments to 3 minutes. And if you'd like to make a public comment, please raise the raise hand icon on Zoom, or via telephone, push *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute or unmute. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, we're going to move right into the consent agenda. Are there any board members that would like to pull an agenda item? Please raise your hand. Besides Patrick. I have one, so. Anthony, would you like to pull an item?
Yes, I would like to pull item 9, update on Sun Street Transfer Station reallocation project. For a question.
And that is the item I would like to pull as well. Is there anyone else? Can I entertain a motion to approve the rest of the items on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I'm having trouble getting through, but I just wanted to pull for comment item number 7, the memorandum of understanding with the county.
Item 7, thank you, Judge.
Just for comment, and it doesn't have to self-show vote, but I really appreciate the support on this. It's a great program that we're really getting going that Chris Lopez and I worked on putting together with the county, and Mandy Brooks has been real essential in getting it together. We got Smith and Enright who's doing the trash pickup, and if we get this approved, then I want to come out and make sure, and this is for the pickup of the big items, I want to really come out with a pretty good public relations thing that's saying we have this program, let's start using it. I spoke at the Lions Club recently. They didn't know anything about it, so I don't think we as a county has done as much outreach as we should, and we're going to do a lot more. But I think this is a really important partnership, and I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So we're looking for a motion to approve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So moved.
Miss Vice
8.
President?
Yes,
We would need to go to public comment first before the motion.
thank
To see
you.
if anybody in the public wants to pull the item.
Thank you, Roy.
You're welcome.
Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda or any items that they want to have pulled? Seeing none, we'll go back to Anthony for his motion.
I'll
I'll
second
move.
that motion. I'm not sure if there was a second.
So Anthony, you're moving all the rest of the items but 9, and Rob, you're seconding that motion, correct? Thank you so much. Erica?
Director Cullen,
Aye.
Director Jimenez,
Aye.
Director Osornio,
Aye.
Director Phillips,
Aye.
Director Rocha,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Aye.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Aye.
and Vice President Cromie.
Yes. Thank you. Now we're going to item 9 on the consent agenda. Anthony, you had a question?
Yeah, I was reading through this and I had a lot of great information, but I'm a little bit lost as to what exactly I'm voting on. Because the recommendation says staff recommends the board accept this item and provide input and direction if necessary. But since it's a consent item, you're asking for me to vote on it. So I'm confused as to what exactly I'm voting on.
At this point, you're just voting to accept the report unless the board wants to provide any additional direction to staff. This is just an update, and I also was going to request that pull this item so I could provide some new information that came about after the report was posted.
So thank you, Patrick. So just to be clear, voting to approve it would solely be approving the report as received and not any further action?
Yes, unless the board, again, has, based on that report or the additional information I'm going to provide in a minute, has any additional questions or direction they'd like to add. This really, at this point, is still just an update on our progress.
Thank you, sir. Those are all my questions.
And my question was to you, Patrick, for you to give us a report on what was going on.
Well, y'all beat me to pulling it off the agenda. So the update is that we did meet all hands yesterday. Cesar, Ray, and I on our side, the city manager, Jim Pia, Dave Jacobs, Brian Fruce from the city, as well as representatives from Republic Service and your consultant, R3. And so I think it was a very productive meeting. You know, as you know, we're trying to finalize a letter of intent, which is the framework for all the different agreements and how this partnership would happen at Madison Lane. And we really are down, I think after yesterday's meeting, we're down to one item that Republic Services will be replying to the group on in the next couple of weeks. And based on that response, we're hopeful that we will be able to bring this back to the executive committee and the full board in August for discussion and consideration. So we've made a lot of great progress, and I'll be engaging our legal counsel on the framework for at least a couple of the agreements in anticipation that we'll probably move forward to the next step after the letter of intent is executed, and just try to keep this on a tight track. So far, so good. Everything has been positive, and really appreciate particularly the leadership from Steve Kerrigan and Jim Pia. They have both been really outstanding partners and collaborators, and really pushing to keep everybody at the table and talking. And so it's been a pleasure to actually work through this with them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patrick. Given that report, I would like to go to the board and see if anyone has additional comment on that report.
I just want to say on my end that I certainly appreciate all the hard work that Patrick and his staff is doing, as well as the leadership of the board. It's been really it's been good to be able to move in that direction. So thank you, Patrick. The compliments go back to you for your leadership on your end.
Thank you.
We have one person in public comment that would like to comment. Phone number 633-4669. Go ahead.
It's Supervisor Phillips.
Okay.
I just wanted to echo the comments that were made, that I really appreciate all the hard work we've done on this. We were turtled there for quite a while, but also the hard work that the administration in Salinas City has done too. It goes both ways. So thank you all. Thank you.
So I too would like to echo that, and as all of you know, this has been one of my pet projects as a councilwoman and as a member of this board. So hopefully we can get this rectified before I'm no longer here. Let's move on to our first item, which is Food Waste and Recycling Award Program. And Mandy is going to introduce our recipients.
Great, thank you. So as you all know, we had no in-person learning at schools this past year, obviously due to COVID. So our annual Wally Waste Not Award program for schools was obviously postponed. So we decided to switch gears and focus on SB 1383 programs, because that's what we're all focused on in our industry. And so we developed a Food Waste and Recycling Award program. And the idea was that we would offer up to 4 awards of $5,000 each to any local nonprofit, school district central kitchen, or other public entities that collect, generate, and or distribute food to charities or families in need within our service area. We had 2 applicants apply, one of which was not qualified, unfortunately. However, the second applicant, Rancho Cielo, did qualify. So from February to May of this past year, they diligently worked to successfully complete all of the 5 mandatory requirements in order to receive the funding. Estela Gutierrez would normally be giving this presentation on our staff. Her, along with Darlene Ruiz, who you will hear a presentation from in just a bit, from our staff worked with Monterey County Environmental Health and Waste Management staff to assist Rancho Cielo in implementing their food waste collection services for the entire campus. They increased their recycling capacities, and they also decreased their garbage capacity, along with upgrading all of their recycling programs campus-wide. So with that, I will introduce Luz Garcia Melendrez, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name. She is the administrative assistant with Rancho Cielo, along with Cecilia Romero is also with us tonight, both from Rancho Cielo, and they are going to run through their presentation of all the hard work that they did.
Andy, thank you so
Good
much.
evening, everyone. Luz will be presenting tonight, but my name is Cecilia Romero. I'm Deputy Director with Rancho Cielo, and I just wanted to come on and say thank you so much for accepting our proposal and awarding the $5,000. We're excited for this. It was a fantastic learning opportunity, and Luz did an amazing job with putting everything together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. She also did quite a bit of work, so thank you so much. Thank you, Mandy, for that great introduction, and thank you so much for giving us this opportunity for this grant. Yeah, could we go ahead and go to the next slide, please? Thank you. We had put together this very large presentation going into everything, including the rules and laws that we're trying to follow now throughout our campus. So I'm going to skip a little bit through the presentation, but feel free to go through it. We worked on it really hard. Could we go on to the next one, please? Thank you. So first, introducing Rancho Cielo. Rancho Cielo invests in all young people facing challenges for success through diploma education, vocational training, counseling, and life skill development in a safe and affirming environment. Next, please. Here's a little bit of a deeper dive to our presentation. It goes over what we do, how we do it. Could we go on next, please? Currently, we have 7 programs, and we will be adding 2 more really soon. This fall, auto diesel repair, and next fall, ag futures. Our campus has actually 2 accounts through waste management, one through the Monterey County Office of Education, and one held by Rancho Cielo. Let's take a look at
add something real quick. Sorry, Luz. We're currently recruiting for all of our programs. So if you guys know of anyone or can help us promote our programs, we would love to send you information. We're recruiting for the academic high school diploma and vocational training in the construction, culinary, hospitality, and now agriculture industries.
Thank you so much, Ceci. Our programs have mostly returned to in-person learning, and almost all students have returned to campus. Time's very limited for our students, however. We have about 4 hours of in-person learning. This will change during our summer and fall components. So, but regardless, our students are laser focused on earning their credits for graduation and also their vocational training. We hope to involve our students in the Recycle program and have them train our staff and their peers. So let's take a look now at our waste assessment and our findings. Next, please. So we had the pleasure of being visited by Stella and Darlene to carry out our waste assessment. We walked throughout campus and throughout all the ranch, and we found that some services were actually missing. And we also found out how we could reduce our trash capacity and increase our recycle capacity, and also integrating the organic waste bin into our system. Next, please. There we go. Thank you. Sorry, I'm experiencing a bit of a lag on my end. So here's our layout. We have 2 points of picking up. Most very different. The number 1 is under Monterey County Office of Education, and then the other one is handled by Rancho Cielo. Next, please. Like I mentioned before, we discovered that some services were inactive. Stella and Darlene helped us get in contact with Waste Management, and Liz Hall helped us receive 1 96-gallon yard waste bin, 6 96-gallon recycle bins, and swapped our 4 cubic yard waste for the correct 8 cubic yard, not yard waste, my bad, not yard waste, recycle bin, our 8 cubic yard recycle bin. We also added a 64-gallon food waste bin to start our organic waste diversion program. And almost all changes were made at no cost. The only additional expense would be the food waste bin, a charge of $63.16. Next, please. These changes increased our recycle capacity. The changes were made to correctly implement the waste management services for MCOE in our campus. Next, please. We have placed our food waste bin at our upper parking lot close to the Drummond Culinary Academy, which hosts Friday night dinners. We were also provided large collection bins for our kitchen, as you can see our student holding it right here, which we greatly appreciate. All of this has made organic waste diversion very, very simple for them. Next, please. Lastly, Stella encouraged us to reduce our garbage bins behind the TTVC building as waste production has reduced due to COVID and the absence of a lot of our students. We reduced from 4 cubic yards to 2 cubic yards. This resulted in a reduction, a fee reduction of $296.64. Next, please. Due to the fee reduction, we project that we would save nearly $3,000 per year. That's including the cost of the new organic waste bin, the $63. If we didn't count that, it would be clearly over $3,000 savings per year. Next, please. Here are the laws that we're now trying to follow with our new organic waste program. You can pause here. I'm pretty sure it's recorded. You could pause here and see that. Next, please. So this slide really goes over our organic waste program. There's layers to this apple. We're providing training and education. That's the outside. Then proper services and bins. We monitor those bins, make sure that they are available for everybody in campus. Next is really the diversion of food waste from our landfill, making sure that our Friday night leftovers go into the waste bin, and also educating our staff and students and residents to divert that food waste. Lastly, the core of this is creating policies that will help the sustainability of this program campus-wide. Next, please. So to create that policy, we thought of all the programs and how they would be affected. We already divert food to our students. Any leftover from our culinary classes is offered to the students. Other leftovers from events or board of director meetings are offered to staff and students. Our garden also diverts extra veggies and fruits to staff, students, and at times, it is also diverted to food pantries such as Dorothy's Kitchen. Next, please. Here's a wonderful quote from Chef EJ, really embodying this food diversion. Food is too valuable to be wasted, and the mission for each chef is not to have any leftovers. Next, please. Here is really applying the organic waste diversion. Here are a couple of pictures throughout our campus of students using it and where they have been placed. Next, please. Here are the laws that we're trying to abide with our recycling program. Next, please. So recycling is hard and nobody's really perfect. Here are a couple of pictures of how we have messed up, but we are very diligent in checking our recycle before pickup. And this morning, actually, I had to call in waste management and cancel our pickup because I noticed that somebody put a lot of sawdust in it and that's not recyclable. So we got that handled. As you can see here, we also added 196-gallon curbside pickup for recycle. And for garbage, this is incorrect right here. So I'll go ahead and correct that right now. So we actually got 6 96-gallon curbside pickups for recycle. So that increased very much our recycle. And like I mentioned previously, our 4 cubic yard was changed to 8 cubic yards, amplifying our recycle capacity in our upper parking lot. Next, please. So here's a little bit of what we've done to train our staff and students. We have thought of carrying out annual trainings for staff, refreshers as needed, and as new staff comes in. And we also want to celebrate our staff for working so hard. We really want to thank them. students and residents, they are training at least once per year, or I have had already academies requesting another training for the summer component and for the fall semester. Residents and advisors will be also trained as needed, as they can come in and move out as often as needed. Signage throughout campus has been put up. Stella and her team made this wonderful, wonderful poster that uses our logo and our colors. So really, really nice. Thank you so much. Next, please. So some personal thoughts about the program and the process. It was really, really interesting to learn about this new laws, and my boss, Susanna Erdbacher, and I were talking this morning about how excited we are to have soon curbside pickup of organic waste. Both of us have been bringing our organic waste into campus just because we have the bin there. So we really like diverting. Also, it's really interesting to see the actions that we need to take campus-wide to teach and promote the multiple recycling programs, as we are pretty large and we have a lot of different components throughout campus. The teaching experience was really interesting. It was really nice to have some students on campus and be able to have a one-on-one conversation with them. And I'm really, really thankful also for Salinas Valley Recycle for also giving and promoting their training services for our students. I think we had 1 or 2 programs that actually got that training too. Also, we also teach the value of food that is directly connected with food diversion and making sure that all the good food gets to someone. So on the next few slides, I have screenshots of the content I used to connect that with the students. Next, please. So here's one of those. 1 in 4 residents in Monterey County is facing hunger. Next, please. 1 in 3 children in Monterey County is facing hunger. And it was really interesting to say this fact to the students, because if I lost them with hearing a lot about recycling, it can be hard to keep a good audience with that. Having that told to them, it's different, and it really takes them into perspective about their peers and about their family and friends and how they could be affected. So I hope that we really taught them a different value to our food and to our leftovers. Next, please. Here's just a couple of more facts. Like 400% of the need increased of food demand since the pandemic began. Next, please. And over 5 million pounds of produce is rescued each year. So I use that to wrap it up with a little sweet bow to say that, what we're doing does help people. Let's keep it up. Let's implement it. Next, please. So our focus is mostly to divert food to our students. While we were working on this, we were really brainstorming about maybe how we could divert food to other places. And at the end of the day, we really thought about our student population. All of our students are in the low income, low wage demographic. So it's really important to focus all of this food diversion towards the students and making sure that we're providing them with the correct programs and connections so they could have access to that food. Next, please. I have had a lot of fun with this. I even started my own compost in my backyard. Stella helped me out, and she told me about the Earth Day, the Earth Day special where you guys were giving out waste compost bins and also the warm bins. So I took advantage of that, and I spread the word throughout campus too. Yeah, thank you. Next, please. Thank you so much to Salinas Valley Solid Waste, to Stella Gutierrez, Darlene, Jonah Falk, to the board members, to Mandy Brooks, to everybody. And thank you so much also to the Rancho Cielo staff and students. They worked very hard and diligently, and they heard me sometimes nag at them for having dirty recycle, but we'll all work on it, I'm sure. Again, without programs like this or grants like this for the nonprofits or for the community, we sometimes, it would be very, very hard to abide to all of this laws. So please continue to give opportunities like this throughout our community. We're really, really thankful.
Thank you so much, Luz. Wonderful information and congratulations. And Cece, it is nice to see you again, as always. Mandy, do you have anything additional?
No, that was it. I believe I emailed Luz and Ceci and just said the check is in the mail. It really is. So normally I would be handing you a check in person, but since everything is virtual. Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful opportunity. It was frustrating at times because there's just so much information, and this is something that we had to do. But again, it was a huge learning opportunity for us. And the money that we're saving, we would not have come across that assessment opportunity, and we wouldn't have known, that we could actually save money by doing that assessment. So that in itself was totally worth it. So thank you so much.
Well, and I would say that I really think that this is going to be a valuable lesson for all of the students as well, that they can carry on for the rest of their lives. So I really appreciate both of you and all of the staff putting the effort into this. Let's go to the board and see if anyone else has any additional comments they'd like to make. Please raise your hand.
Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Yes, I see you, Judge. Go right ahead.
I think I remember where Rancho Cielo is, but I got to say that the program is even more important for Rancho Cielo than other programs, only because we have a large garden that the master gardeners run there that provide a lot of the food for them. So you got that from the composting and things, but then especially the other students, it's important, but especially for the culinary students, these are the people that are going out into the restaurant business, a lot of them on it. And so them being educated and carrying on how important it is to food waste and recycling and the other things is critical. So it's a opportune time to bring that to the staff at Rancho Cielo. So great presentation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you both again. A great presentation. Now we're gonna move on. Sorry, I have multiple screens open here and just got a text message that one of my friends passed away. So I'm a little shaken. Just give me a second here. School outreach, a look forward from Danielle Ruiz.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Just a quick note on the last presentation. It was such a pleasure working with all of the staff at Rancho Cielo, making this happen, and it's the reason why I love my job. So thank you for the opportunity to work with you, and congratulations on your award. And so tonight, I would like to talk to you a little bit about what we do in school outreach and our school programs. Can you change the slide, please?
I thought I was frozen. Thank you.
Yeah. So it'll just be a quick overview. You can go ahead and change the slide. So I thought Mandy would have covered the contract with Rocksteady Juggling before I got to the presentation, but as you may already be aware, we have contracted Rocksteady Juggling for the past couple years to provide recycling education shows at schools locally. And so with everything that happened last year with COVID, he quickly pivoted to continue providing shows virtually. So this just shows some of the data on the reach. So he still managed to reach a little over 13,000 students in our service area. And the investment, it totals to about $2.66 per student. So we get a lot of bang for our buck here. Next slide, please. And for Rocksteady Juggling, here's some of the comments that we got during the evaluations. Most generally agree that they would recommend the program. It's age appropriate. They get an eco message that is entertaining and engaging, that conveys the importance of reducing waste and recycling, and effectively teaches the 4 R's of reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. And some of the comments that we got from teachers and school staff include that they did suggest it to other schools. They said, I put it on our Salinas Teachers Sharing Cool Things Facebook page. Thanks. The kids had a wonderful time and learned a lot. Someone else mentioned, I was hesitant about booking an online assembly. It was excellent. The students loved it. Thank you. And somebody else mentioned, hope you do this every year and more. My students loved it. So happy to see we have something engaging to get them started on the 4 R's at an early age. Even I learned something new, rot. Go ahead and change it to the next slide. So here is the proposal for the upcoming school year assembly show. We are switching things up a little, bringing in a second assembly show called Eco Hero. And he's received approval to utilize city county payment program funds from the bottle and can recycling funding to fund shows. So what we're proposing is to use Rocksteady Juggling to focus on organics and food waste education, and then have Eco Hero provide the recycling and litter education. Next slide, please. Here's some of the other contracts and clients for Rocksteady Juggling. So it just kind of shows other places he's worked with. Next slide, please. And so for those of you that are not familiar with the Eco Hero show, he has been sponsored by more than 110 cities and counties in California. And just last year alone, he worked with 58 jurisdictions. Some examples include Central Contra Costa County, San Joaquin County, and even in our own county in the unincorporated areas through waste management. Next slide, please. So one of the things that he also provided are virtual shows. And so that's kind of our main focus here, is to sponsor virtual shows because we do care about carbon footprint. He's located in LA, so we would ideally sponsor virtual shows. And if by chance he happens to kind of be in town for one of the waste management shows, then we would consider doing the in-person shows at the schools. But the idea is to have him present virtually. And his focus is a little bit more on engaging kids through music and rap, whereas Rocksteady Juggling is more of a performing arts type show. Next slide, please. So this just shows a quick estimate of what the cost breakdown would look like. We do have some previous funding from CPPP funds that could be used in this, and additionally, Salinas has their own CCPP funding, which if they don't use it, it would have to go back. So it would be a great way to have them fund additional shows. Next slide. So now that we talked a little bit about what our vendors do, I'd like to show a little bit about what we do internally as school and outreach focused education goes. So these images kind of just show a little bit of what we do when we're invited at schools. And on the top, you can see Estela doing one of the demos with the worms with the little kids. We focus a lot on hands-on education and experiences that are fun and engaging. And we also do waste assessments. So there in the middle, you can see we help set up zero waste stations and just go in, do waste assessments, and then provide them with reports as well as recycling plans. We try to really educate them about the landfill and waste reduction. And we also help in any way that we can, whether they need help, for example, sponsoring the sporks that you see there in their journey to become less wasteful. And we also do provide services for teachers. And so here, the picture with Jana just kind of shows some of the outreach we do for teachers to make them aware of the fact that they can invite us into their classroom and we will educate students about waste reduction through recycling, composting, and even tours to the landfill. Next slide, please. So some of the school services that we provide, aside from what are of course the presentations that I mentioned, the recycling and composting, the school tour of our facilities, waste assessments. We help set up indoor and outdoor recycling. And if they're interested in setting up composting or a garden, we help with that, as well as donations of worms or any types of bins they need. And we also provide educational material. So if they need brochures, recycling guides, posters, we provide that, as well as donation of any other materials. Sometimes we've gotten calls of people looking for pallets to make a fence or tires for art. And so we're always happy to help in any way that we can. Next slide, please. And so, of course, with schools not really being in person last year, we also had to make some changes in the way we deliver our programming. And we conducted some virtual presentations, as well as other video projects, such as the landfill tour. We made one for the general public, one for students, and we also created one for the transfer station. We also created a training video for janitors and mini course education series to kind of spread the word a little bit in a fun way about what services we provide, what's a waste versus a resource, how to recycle right, and composting and the critters you can find, so a little bit of that fun science in there, as well as an introduction to careers in the waste industry. I really felt this is a topic that isn't really touched upon a lot, so it was important to give a little intro about what's out there. And we also created compost workshops in English and Spanish. Next slide, please. So looking ahead, we are working on a testimonial video clip from ALISA administrators that we worked with when we created the Zero Waste Station at Jesse Sanchez. And that's to help drive the message and inform other administrators about the changes that were implemented successfully and their impacts while meeting the upcoming regulations. So it is a goal to continue to work with administrators at the district level, as well as to continue with a regular programming of enhancing and implementing recycling, resuming in-person waste assessments, conducting student and staff trainings and presentations, implementing the food waste collection. The Wally Wasteland Award program is currently undergoing some changes, but we do hope to bring that back, as well as school tours and other video projects. So we do hope to create one about the transition to zero waste, how to sort properly at school, and edible food recovery, as well as a kids composting video. Next slide. So that's just a quick overview about what we do in terms of school outreach and education. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Darlene, can you tell everyone what the acronym CCPP funds are?
Yes, that's the City County Payment Program. So that those funds are from the CRV, the bottles and can recycling. So that's where the funding comes from to provide education specific to recycling education and litter prevention.
Thank you. We throw out a lot of acronyms. I just wanted the people listening to know what that was. Does anyone else on the board have comments? Rob, you're first.
Yeah, and it is a comment, not a question. I just wanted to say that so my oldest daughter is in middle school and she's seen various presentations over the years. And I just love the outreach that we do for kids. And I have learned stuff from my own daughter about what can be composted and what cannot. I see Mandy smirking. That was several years ago. I've made these comments in the past that, I mean, we all understand when we teach our kids things, it doesn't matter what it is, but as it relates to recycling, reducing, et cetera, those kids go back home and they're teaching their parents, they're teaching their aunts, the uncles, the grandparents. And so I love the programs that we do. And I know it's an investment and it's expending funds that, as with any expenditure of funds, there's choices of where funds can be expended, but I view this as a really good investment in our future. And I just love supporting the program, and it's pretty neat seeing a consolidated presentation like this of not only what has been done, but what the future holds. There's just a lot of opportunities out there, and just thank you to everyone involved in doing that. Good work.
Thank you, Robin. Very well said. Does any other board member have any comment or questions? Seeing none, does the public have any comment or questions on this presentation? Raise your hand on Zoom. Or press 9 if you're on the phone. Seeing none, it was for informational purposes, so we will consider it received. Thank you so much, Darlene. And now we're going on to 13, which is sustainable financing and rate setting. Ray, you're on.
It's my lucky number. Okay, so just wanted to talk to the board, just kind of refresh some of the decisions and actions the board has made to kind of help make our finances sustainable and being able to plan for things in the future. Next slide. Okay, so one of the earliest one, and this actually predates me, but the board decided to refinance our debt. We had a bond issued to deal with, mitigate some of the issues at the landfills and transfer stations, as well as the installment purchase arrangement. And that's for the purchase of Crazy Horse landfill. So those had high interest rates. So we were able to refinance those back in 2014. As you can see in the right column, actually produce a savings of roughly $4.8 million over the life of the refinance. Those savings were taken at the beginning of the loan in order to fund some deferred capital, pay back actually some CIP programs that we had borrowed from, like the Johnson Canyon roadway improvement, and some funds we borrowed for the building of the gas plant over at Johnson Canyon. And then to kind of start building up our CIP budget over the following years. We did use some of this money to kind of help us fund Jalón Road when we took over. Next slide. Another thing that the board did was implement AB 939 fees. So these were implemented in 13-14. It's a flat annual revenue stream that doesn't depend on landfill tipping fees, and pays for those AB 939 programs. Actually, the AB 939 still isn't fully funded, but annual increases are currently planned to be applied to AB 939 until those are fully funded. Next slide. Okay, so just a reminder of our solid waste tipping fee. So this is the $68.50 tipping fee, and this is roughly what it pays for. So landfill and transfer station operations, that's Johnson Canyon, Sun Street, and Jalón Road. The portion that's not paid by franchise fees, franchise waste surcharges, is $42. We spend roughly $15 of our tipping fee on debt service and another $6 to manage the closed landfills in Lewis Road, Jalón Road, and Crazy Horse. And as I mentioned, about a little over $5 still goes to AB 939 and recycling programs, with a really small amount allocated for reserves. Next slide. Okay, so another piece that we do annually, and I have shown these to the board in prior years, we review the actual cost of service. So we do an analysis of the transportation surcharge. So we do an incremental analysis of the transportation surcharge in order to come up with an appropriate rate for those transportation surcharge. And the same thing with diversion programs. The organics and C&D are reviewed. Those are our two largest diversion programs, in order to make sure those adjustments apply to the actual cost of service. Again, I think you guys heard me say it several times during the budget processes. These are our largest programs, and they're meant to reduce the garbage, which is what pays for the debt service and the closed landfill. So we want to, at the minimum, make sure that they're self-funded and not relying on other revenue streams. When we analyze it, we do include the cost of capital and overhead, and we try to level. Another piece that we do is level CIP funding whenever possible, and we'll talk about that in another couple of slides. So one example of trying to kind of spread out the impact of rate increases, we did know that we were going to be building this compost operations with SB 1383 coming. So we planned for a phased-in rate increases for the mixed organics and wood waste. So when we started, we were at 36, I don't even remember, 36, it's been so long ago. I believe it was $36 a ton, $34 a ton, and we phased it in over several years. 2021 was deferred, but 21, 22 is close to fully funded. There'll be a really, really minor adjustment next year to kind of even out both the self-haul and the franchise rates, because they are essentially provided mostly the same service. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, we try to spread out capital whenever possible. So post-closure used to be in the operating budget. We transferred it to the CIP budget a couple of years ago. Post-closure, there are some years where there are some large maintenance that is required, flares, gas systems being upgraded, and liner being flattened out. I know they're working on some pretty big ones at Crazy Horse this year. In other years, there isn't quite as much maintenance provided. So in order to kind of even that out and spread out the impact, we moved it to a CIP so we can fund it at a flat level, carry over those funds from year to year. They're isolated in separate funds. And that way, when we have those big shifts and increases, the money has been built up over time so that it's spread out. So the impacts aren't felt, the ebbs and flows. New cell construction a couple of years ago, when we built the last cell, we estimated that it cost us about $5 a ton to fund that cell. So the board did approve us setting aside $5 a ton for future landfill development. So every ton that goes in the landfill, we set aside $5 so that when we get to build the next landfill, that money's already set aside. Equipment purchase replacement, when we took over Johnson Canyon and Jalón, we took out loans. External loan at Johnson Canyon and internal loan for Jalón Road. Once we paid those off, we started funding CIPs with that same money that we're paying off those loans. So now as the equipment that we purchased when we took over those loans are ready to be replaced, we'll have money set aside for that. Now does have a slight CPI escalator because equipment gets more expensive over time. But once again, that just kind of phases in the increases over time. The organics equipment replacement, we just spent a lot of money, grant money on infrastructure. So when that stuff is ready to be replaced, we'll have money set aside for that. Road improvement, this is one of Chris's, we asked for years for this to be added to the budget. We spent $3 million improving the roads next to Johnson Canyon in the last year. So now we're setting aside a small amount every year in order to have some money set aside for road maintenance at all of our facilities, whether it be Jalón Road, Johnson Canyon, or any other facility that we operate. And then typical Johnson Canyon landfill improvements, as I mentioned, there are improvements that happen every year. The gas wells need to be improved, the garbage fence that is surrounding the landfill needs to be expanded, repaired. So we do those over time in order to kind of flatten out. So as you can see, total CIPs, 3.8 million. They do increase a couple of $100,000 over 5 years, but those are slight increases over a long period of time. Next slide. Okay, another thing that has been done in the last few years is in 2017, the authority joined the California Employment Retirement Benefit Trust. And that is to fund the liability that is for required health, our portion of health benefits for retirees. Since we opened the trust, we had some money set aside as we had allocated, it had been allocated over 3 years, and we finally joined the trust that year and to actually get the benefit. One of the GASB requirements changed the way the accounting works. So joining the trust allowed us to account for a higher discount rate, and I will explain what that is momentarily. But since we joined the trust, we've deposited $871,000, and we've done pretty well in the trust. We've gained almost $200,000 in interest over that 4 year. So that bottom number is the actual liability. So in 2017, our liability was $635,000. 2018, the new GASB was implemented, but we were able to take advantage of a 5.5% discount rate, so it kind of lowered our overall liability, and then we started funding it. The actuarials are done in arrears, so you don't see the money, the accounting shows up the following year, which is why there's a difference between the plan assets and the money that's actually in there. Next slide. Okay, so I mentioned the discount rate. So most of us are aware what a normal loan is. So you take out a loan for $3 million, you pay 7% over interest, and at the end of the loan, you pay the interest and you have a zero balance. A discount rate works backwards. So this is a very simplified version of what an actuary does. So in 2030, we need $1 million. So if we put $700,000 in a bank at 4% interest every year, by the time we get to 2030, we have $1 million. But if we earn if we're expecting to earn 5.5%, we only need $620,000 in a bank to get to $1 million. And then 7%, 550,000. So basically, the higher the percentage that you're expecting to earn, the less money you need in a bank today to get there. An actuary does this, in our case, for 66 different employees with different timeframes and different benefits going into the future, and kind of rolls it up into the present in order to figure out what our actual liability is. Like I said, this is an extremely simplified number. It is not an actual number for anything, just so you can see the difference of what a discount rate is. Next slide. So that being said, another thing that we've done is paid down our unfunded actuarial liability for our retirement program. In 2017, our scheduled interest on $1 million of unfunded liability was 1.1 million. We used surplus funds to pay it off. At the time, the discount rate was 7.25%. Actual returns were 11.2%, but the following year, the discount rate was reduced to 7%. So we had another unfunded liability because of that change. Once again, we did pay it off, $261,000, saving us about $230,000 in interest. The following year, there was a small loss in returns, 6.7%, and we paid that off. We currently have $250,000 in our budget annually to continue to fund any changes in this UAL or the CRBT liability until that is fully funded. For June 30th, 2020, the actual returns were 4.7% on a discount rate. So that's going to create an unfunded liability, and absent changes, we're estimating that to be somewhere between 250, 300,000. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of other things that go into it, but we did, in order to help fund that, we did set up a California Employment Public Pension Trust in order to start funding that liability. Last year, the board approved use of one-time funds to fund 170,000, and we had about 9,100 left over after we made our initial UAL payment. First deposit was only made about 5 months ago, but we have already earned like $3,000 in interest. So with that and the funds that are in next year, we're hopeful that that could be done. That being said, the returns for this year are expected to be 12.4%. Unfortunately, that will show up a year later. Another item on this that they're looking at is the potential for reducing the discount rate. As you see, in between 17 and 18, just going from 7.25 to 7% created a $260,000 liability. But they're looking at going from 7% to 6.5%. They're not being, we have to read between the lines to get those numbers, but they are starting to have some engagement. I have a webinar actually in the next week, hopefully to get a little more information. But if that does happen, we are likely to see a UAL amount. So having this completely paid off actually keeps us in a better position to try to maintain that. And next slide. I think that's it. That might be it. One other item actually, and I didn't think about it earlier today, is in the last year, the board approved us starting to fund post-closure for Johnson Canyon. So Johnson Canyon right now is, with the current plans that are being approved, has about 44 years of life. So we have plenty of time to get that funded, but at this point in time, we are going to start funding that. So when that landfill is ready to close, there are funds allocated to kind of manage that landfill for the 30 plus years that'll be required once it closes. So unless there are any questions.
I think that's a great idea. So whatever board thought of that, that was a great idea.
Thank you, Christy.
Any questions or comments from the board? Please raise your hand. It was a lot of information, a lot of good information, and very clear. Thank you so much, Ray. I appreciate
that. Got you a lot of numbers, Rob.
Lots of numbers.
Well, simply put, we're paying our bills. We're setting aside money for the future instead of planning for additional debt. So we're retaining our debt capacity if we ever need it. And, you know, we've been working on this for 10 years to really change the way solid waste agencies operate. I think we're trying to set a different standard that if we rely on filling our landfill up with garbage to pay all the bills, we eventually run out of something to sell. You know, we sell off our landfill space. It's like you or I selling a piece of our house to pay our mortgage. It's not sustainable. So, you know, this is old school. You know, you want to tell your kid, you want to buy a bike? Well, you save your allowance, and in a year or two, you can buy a bike. That's really the philosophy that we try to hold true to.
Now, if we could just quit getting unfunded mandates, we'd be okay.
Well, that's a higher level question.
Absolutely. Is there any public comment from the, any comment from the public? Any public comment from the public? Please raise your hand or push 9 if you're on the phone. Seeing none, we'll bring this back. This was for informational purposes only, and it was incredibly informational. So we appreciate it. Our next item is a consideration item, number 14. It is future board meeting protocols, and Patrick will be giving us this presentation. Patrick?
Well, this is a fairly simple one. We've been waiting for the day when we could all potentially meet together and see each other's faces in 3 dimensions instead of 2. So I think what we've really outlined, and this is the conversation we're seeing all across California and the US right now, is how do we transition back to what was normal for us as an agency? And so we've outlined 3 options for the board to discuss and consider. One would be simply we go back to live in-person meetings, just like we did before. So that's option 1. And the changes that were adopted and finalized today would support us doing that. And some agencies, I'll use Soledad as an example, because we were participating with them in a meeting last week, have successfully gone back to all in-person meetings. Second option is a hybrid, continue to have some type of a hybrid opportunity so that board members that maybe aren't ready or just like to have the option to participate via Zoom, we could have a hybrid style meeting where many or most of us are in the meeting room together, and then others can dial in and participate remotely. That can happen in the short term, but in the long term, it's likely that the Brown Act exemptions are going to be dropped at some point in the near future. And while that could still happen, the caveat is that now you have to open your living room or your hotel room, wherever you happen to be, to members of the public to participate from your location. And that's the standard practice that existed before those waivers were put into place at the beginning of the COVID quarantine. And then the third option is, and the board could continue to meet via Zoom. That has those, again, as long as those waivers are in place, the board can continue to meet in Zoom, at least for the near future, and not go to either a hybrid or a full all member live meeting. So those are the 3 options. The other thing that we have done, and there's some legislation out there, and Roy may give you a little more background on it, AB 339. And what that did, or at least the draft legislation when it first came out, was that if you're an agency that is serving more than 250,000 people, which we are, we're around 265, 270,000, and that includes cities, counties, and special districts, you are required to continue with the practice that we all developed during the COVID quarantine to provide remote access and participation to the general public. That bill, as it's moving through committee, has subsequently been amended, and the requirement for larger special districts like ours was dropped. And unless Roy has some new information and they've changed their mind, because it seems Sacramento's changing their mind a lot these days, that is not a requirement for our agency any longer, assuming that bill passes as it has been amended. But we believe that it's actually a really good thing to allow that additional access to the public, and to continue that as a standard practice. We have an OWL camera system. Again, I'm familiar with Soledad using it. It was very interesting. It's an integrated system that has a 360 camera that can take pictures from multiple points. Has audio visual recognition. It can actually focus in on whoever's speaking whether it's someone, a board member speaking, or whether it's someone speaking from the public at the podium. And so you can have multiple pictures on the screen. It's actually really interesting. It was very interesting to watch that in action. Very inexpensive, under $1,000. So we're definitely recommending, I think, that we maintain that regardless of the legislative changes that may or may not affect us down the road. And also, I think in the beginning, we're not quite sure yet what limitations may continue on. For instance, the Gonzales Chamber, whether there's still going to be a desire to have limited number of public that participate. So I think having the remote participation is just a great benefit, and it gets more people involved in our business day to day without having to leave the comfort of their home. So tonight, I'm just wanting to facilitate sort of a discussion between the board members about the three options and what you'd like. See if you'd like to support what we're recommending to continue the remote access for the public. And what's your pleasure? I want to see all of you, so. I vote for option one, but I don't get a vote tonight.
Thank you, Patrick. Anthony, you first, and then Rob Collin.
Thank you. I totally support Patrick's idea to have remote access for the public. I think that's a great way forward. And there's actually a friend of mine that was pushing that bill, Alex Lee, and I'm excited that he did it, because really it does allow for people who work to be able to access these meetings, especially if they're in Gonzales. So that's a great idea. The other part of the discussion is what role the board will play moving forward. And for me, at least, Representative Encinitas, I'd like to, in the time being, remain in Zoom. And once those Brown Act exceptions are dropped, then we could go back in person. But for now, I think I feel most comfortable being on Zoom until we kind of see how this reopening plays out for the next couple of months, just for safety of myself and my family. And, I don't feel the need as a board member to say everyone has to be vaccinated around me. And I think it just works out best right now to be on Zoom. And then once that gets dropped, we could go back in person.
Thank you, Anthony. Rob?
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, first off, as far as the public access, I think providing opportunities for the public to access our meetings virtually, I think that's a no-brainer. It adds to transparency and et cetera, et cetera. So that's great. I'd like to advocate that we do option one, especially since we go dark in July, and so our next meeting wouldn't be till August. I'd like to suggest that we do option one and go back to in-person. But with that being said, I also want to be sensitive to my fellow board members, and if there's strong feelings for some folks to remain virtual, I understand. I do think, and perhaps Roy can elaborate a little bit more about the potential need to post alternate locations if some board members are doing it virtually. I think we need to take that into consideration as well. But again, with that being said, I'd like to see option one, especially since we're going dark in July and our next meeting would be in August. Thanks.
Judge Phillips?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I'm old school, but number one, I think keeping the public access on Zoom is great, especially as big as our district is and our meetings in Gonzales. And but for us, I probably have the longest drive getting to the meetings. Maybe Rob Collin down in King City may match me, but I think we lose something when we're not all there together. And some of our board members I haven't got to know very well because we've been on Zoom. And I like to get together and have the camaraderie and also meet with the staff once a month, and I think it's effective. So I kind of feel isolated. I don't feel as big a part of the agency as I do when I'm going there every month. So I'm for option one too. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Vice President Tipton.
Thank you. I just actually have a quick question about this. If we do stay with a kind of a hybrid model and they do the Brown Act exemptions, like for example, our city actually has a policy that says only one can be remote at any given time. Is there anything like that written into the bylaws for the Waste Authority that only a certain number of members can be attending remotely?
Not that I'm aware of in our bylaws. There is a requirement under the Brown Act that limits how many people, how many members can appear remotely. But because our jurisdiction is so large, it really doesn't hamper or hinder the amount of remote access for our membership. For other cities, it would, but our zone of influence is so large that it just requires a certain number of board members to be within our zone of authority. So you could technically still be at home and Zoom in, and you would be in compliance with the Brown Act requirements.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that because, like I said, I know we've had issues with that in the past where multiple council members have decided that they wanted to be remote or that they wanted to do something, and it just doesn't work out very well.
Well, it's definitely technologically a little more challenging with the hybrid, but people have been successfully navigating the hybrid model, so it's not impossible. It just takes puts a little more burden on Eric and Rosie. So,
Ben, go right ahead.
All right, thank you. Yeah, totally agree with what's been said to this point. I'm more in favor of the option 2. Similar like we've done in Soledad, we're back all in person again. However, it was a process that we went through. Some people were not comfortable with meeting in person just because of their hesitancy and whether they had the vaccine or they didn't have the vaccine or they didn't believe, whatever it might be, whatever reason it was. But eventually we got back to all meeting. And I agree with Judge Phillips is that, you build those relationships by meeting each other, talking face to face and creating relationships that is extremely important. And so with the hybrid, with option 2, it gives us that opportunity and also gives access to the public, not only in the meeting itself, but attending personally to a certain amount of numbers, but also having access throughout the county, which is extremely important, especially for those that have a difficult time getting to the meetings or don't want to take the time, but they want to participate. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board? So my thoughts. So we went over this during the executive committee meeting, and at the time I made the comment that I felt like we needed to do an either or. We needed to all go back or we all needed to be on Zoom, because I've been involved in several boards where we tried to do the half and half and that it just didn't work well. With that said, there were some comments made about some people being vaccinated and some people not being vaccinated. And then we started talking about the public coming to the meeting. And I have to tell you, I had a panic attack. The idea of the public coming to the meeting and me being a recent cancer survivor and not knowing whether they had been vaccinated or not really put a panic in my heart. And so I'm very apprehensive to step back in that ring this early in what we don't know. So my suggestion at this point really would be, because we aren't going to have another meeting until August, that we just hold off until August of making a decision and come back in August and we'll know a lot more. We'll know whether the emergency order's been lifted and we have to meet in person. We'll just know a lot more. And I suspect that going to the grocery store a few times without a mask on is going to make me feel much more comfortable about coming to a meeting. And right now, I haven't done that, right? So none of us have went anywhere and done anything without a mask. And And, you know, I actually did go to dinner tonight before this meeting and walked into, but it was my neighborhood restaurant that I go to all the time. So, you know, I know that comfort will come. And right now I'm just feeling like, you know, maybe we should just wait until our next meeting and deal with this at that time. Because I think my opinion will drastically change. And I don't want to feel like I got pushed into something. Rob, go right ahead.
I think those are great comments, Christy. I want to support what you just said. I'd like to fully support what you just said, and I will jump aboard and suggesting that we make a decision in August.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I would just add for the board, just, you know, a little food for thought from a legal perspective. You know, there is a lot of shifting right now and a lot of flux on face covering requirements, OSHA requirements. So that may also help in kind of waiting to see how that actually plays out and whether or not, you know, there's going to be additional changes. Because as currently set up, there are face covering requirements for non-vaccinated individuals who enter public buildings. And so our meetings would qualify under that guideline. So I think it would be good, you know, to see if there's going to be some shifts, you know, one with the Brown Act and then two with the face covering requirements.
So can we agree without having to make a formal motion that we're just going to wait until August?
Yeah, for me, Madam Chair, I agree. I think that's probably a good idea. We don't have to make it now, and we take a look at it in August. I concur with your recommendation, Madam Chair.
Perfect. And if something happens that we have to have that we actually legally have to have our August meeting in person, you know, by all means, Patrick, send out everything that we've got to meet in person. But, you know, if we don't, then we can have this discussion then about how we'd like to proceed. But yeah, absolutely, I think that we need to continue, and we talked about this during the executive committee meeting. We need to keep providing access to the public remotely. On some of the other boards that I sit on, public comment was made that, you know, people are really worried. They can participate now because they can sit at home and do it. And a lot of people can't participate in a meeting. They've got to cook dinner. They've got to, you know, they've got kids, whatever. And by having that ability to, you know, sit in on the meeting remotely, they're able to participate. So I think we need to continue forward with that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm throwing it out there because it's, you know, it's that time where things are starting to change, and I certainly respect the board's desire to keep doing it. And we've got this Zoom thing down. So because of Eric and Rosie's great work, you know, in coordinating all this, you know, our meetings have been very smooth. So nothing's broken. We don't have to fix it, but
absolutely. And I do not want to jinx anything. So I'm looking for wood, but this has been the only meeting I have attended this entire time that has not had any issues. So let's all knock on wood, but yeah, we've really, you guys have done, you know, I want to commend the staff because you've really done a great job of keeping us organized and running very smoothly. We really do appreciate it.
All right, well, we'll bring this back. We'll just raise the item again in August. We'll see if between Roy's input and his connections at the state level and what we actually hear in the media from Sacramento, maybe we'll have some new information that can help guide the board's decision for meetings after August. So we'll stick with the Zoom platform for now.
And I'm hoping that this falls underneath this same subject because you did touch on earlier a presentation on that staff was going back to work, and Roy stopped me if it isn't covered in our agenda today. But so if staff's going back to work, did we hear anything from Cal OSHA today? Or about regulations? There's new regulations.
I mean, the basic provision that we heard today, I mean, it's this, we knew this was coming, is that if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. So we're still working on our revised revision to the rescinded letter that went out a week or so ago, because things have been in flux, as Roy said. But we have 100% vaccination in the office. And so it really is up to each individual person's comfort level. You know, we're not requiring masks in your personal space. If we have visitors, I think we'll continue to require masks, because we're not going to be policing outside people coming into the office and asking about their vaccination status. We'll just assume that we need to take more precaution for now. But generally speaking, you know, we're in the office, we're working. You can work without a mask at your choice.
Very happy to hear that everyone's going back to work and that everyone was 100% vaccinated. That is a great statistic. Thank you, Patrick. Yep. Do we have any public comment on this issue? Is that Grant Leonard? Go ahead and speak.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Yeah, I just wanted to comment via Zoom that I am so thankful of your guys' support for maintaining public participation via Zoom. I serve on a number of committees and I work for a local city, and I have seen the same increase in participation from the public by going online. So definitely don't want to see that go away. One thing that I've also seen is a lot of the participation now is positive. I think before, in the old format, people came to a meeting because they were upset. And what Zoom does is it allows people to come just when they're interested, or also when they have something positive to say. So really hope this is something that sticks around, and I'm glad to see the board supporting that and encouraging public participation. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to comment? Seeing no additional hands, we will close that public comment. Future agenda items.
All right. Well, nothing to talk about for July at this point, unless something catastrophic happens that requires us to have a special meeting. But so for August, I think, again, it's our typical items: financials, investment reports, so things you get at the Ray does at the beginning of the year, some of our diversion reporting. And I think the big issue, we will be doing our annual Employee of the Year recognition. So that's a big item for us to recognize some of our employees that have done outstanding work. And really it's hard to pick one right now, because especially our operations staff, who never missed a beat. I mean, they're out there working, you know, they never stopped. I mean, garbage doesn't stop. You can't stop managing. And I just want to give them great kudos. So we'll be recognizing our employees and the hard work they do. And you'll be hearing just a little bit of our statistical information from the end of the year. But I think most importantly, as I said earlier, we will hopefully be bringing back the first action item relative to the partnership to move to Madison Lane. And want to again thank Steve's still on. I want to again thank Steve Kerrigan for his work, and Jim Pia's work for keeping us all at the table and talking and moving it down the pathway. We still have some challenges. We still have some decisions for the board. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, that it's going to be easy, but like all good deals, there has to be some concessions and on both sides to come to an agreement that works for everybody and continues to allow us to serve the public. That's the most important part. So with that, if there's any additional items, questions you have, you'd like to see, items you'd like to see come forward, August or down the road, please feel free to let Eric or myself know. We'll be happy to agendize it in the appropriate month.
Thank you, Patrick. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments on the upcoming? Nobody? Does anyone in the public have any comments or questions? I see no one. Does anyone from the board have? Was someone speaking? No. Does anyone on the board have any final comments they'd like to make? Raise your hand. Patrick, any final comments?
Well, enjoy your summer recess. Hopefully all of you have something fun planned for the month of July, and looking forward to seeing all of you in August.
Wonderful. We're looking forward to seeing you as well, and we'll bring back this issue, see how the meetings are going to run.
Okay.
There is no closed session, just for the public's information. There will be no closed session tonight. And Orlando, I hope you enjoyed your first meeting of the Solid Waste Authority.
I did. Thank you so much for having me, everyone. Appreciate it.
Hope to see you again. And if there's nothing else, then we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Enjoy July.
Stay safe.
Thank you too.